Trisha recently scored a 725, which is a phenomenal score. If you add 55 points to it, which is the general difference, this will become a 780 equivalent in the previous version, which is a very, very high score. And it's an outstanding score. Another thing, she's from a non-engineering background, so people keep asking me, do you have to be an engineer? Do you have to be from IIT? This proof you don't have to be. This is what she had to say about the training and everything. Hi, Trisha. Finally, we get to talk. Fine.
Hi,
Yes. How has the
good
feeling
morning,
been since
sir.
the time you got this score?
Uh, Obviously, it's been like a really great
Just
feeling.
be a bit louder, Trisha. I'm not able to hear you
Sorry,
very
is
well.
this better?
Yeah, better.
Yeah,
So,
it's obviously a really rewarding and a great feeling. And it also feels surreal on so many levels because it's not common
yeah.
to even believe that it's possible. But
So did
luckily for
did you
everyone,
did
it
you
is.
believe while you started your prep that someday 99th percentile, that to the highest 99th percentile score, because the just 10 marks over this would be 100 percentile. Did you even think this would be a reality? Just tell.
Very honestly, yes, because I feel like if you don't believe it's a reality, then it never can be. Um,
Superb to know, superb. This is just a great answer. Yes,
But
yes.
obviously, that differs from your day to day. Like, there will be days in your prep when you're like, okay, maybe it's not reality for me because things
Hmm.
just aren't going well. And then there will be days where everything goes really well and you're like, maybe it's getting better and you'll get there. So I think that's a
So
very,
you did have those low moments in your prep, let
yeah,
us.
definitely. I think 2 weeks before my exam, the first mock I took was not great at all. It was a 605. And then I
Wow.
took a strategy session. It was,
Mm,
and it was genuinely just 2 weeks before the 24th of uh,
mhm.
March. So
Okay.
it was, um, but then again, I kind of said that I booked the exam. I don't have an option now. So I might
Mhm.
as well see how much I can improve in 2 weeks. So I booked a
Right.
strategy session and I just followed what they told me.
Okay. Just take us through your prep, whatever you did, let's say for the verbal section, quant section, DI section, what did you study? What you practiced
So
from the mock? Everything. Just take us through your entire journey chronologically, if possible. Yeah.
So for me, I'd say I started preparing in January because that's when
Mm.
time allowed me to,
Right.
around mid-Jan. And I first started with everything that was given on the Excel sheet as part of the plan. So I'm
Right.
usually a very follow the recipe kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
So I did the basics. And for quant, I did the basics with the session. For verbal, I did the basics before the session.
Okay.
And I just followed whatever was given week by week.
Mm.
Um, and I used to do pre work, class work, post work in that
Mm.
order.
Mm.
For quant, my post work, I would do only about 50% of the 700 to 800 level questions.
Mm.
And if I was feeling, sorry, if I was feeling comfortable, then I'd move on. If
Right.
I wasn't feeling comfortable, even after getting through 50%, then I would go back to the concepts and kind of just sit down with them. Like for me, coordinate geometry was a little challenging. So
Mm-hmm.
I used to keep going back to the concepts of coordinate geometry and trying to understand them better. And
Right.
then taking up maybe 10 questions in a time manner and see if there's improvement in accuracy.
Right. Right.
And then towards the end, and for verbal, I just followed exactly what you had said.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So you didn't
but
cut down on the post work also, whatever was there. You used to do
no,
that.
in verbal, I did do only about, so for CR, I did all the 700 to 800 level questions. For RC, I couldn't finish all the passages.
Right.
And I started focusing more on doing work on the portal because I wanted to use the interface. For me, the
Right.
interface was a bit intimidating. And
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be very adept at using it by the time my exam came. So
Right.
I
So
started doing that. And in my
did you
last
do
3 weeks,
topic-wise or sectional or
yes.
mock? So
So
like, just
I
tell
was
us
just
everything. Yes.
coming to that. So in my last 3 weeks, my strategy was that now I have to really test my depth of knowledge and my time together because I felt like without each other, they existed. But with each other, that's where you really crack the exam, like the intersection
Absolutely.
between timing your questions under 2 minutes and your depth of knowledge really helps you do that because you have to have
Mhm.
the tricks and the concepts that drive those tricks on your fingertips. So what I did for quant was I used to take about a day per topic. I used to wake up, revise the particular topics, concepts, which I'd written down in one place. Then I
Right.
would do a few 700, 800 level questions to check my knowledge, the ones that marked as hard, some new ones. Then I do the topic wise test. And after that, if my accuracy was more than 80% on that, I would consider the topic closed, otherwise, no.
Right.
Um, and then I did this for all topics. And then I started taking quant sectionals. So I did about 6 out of the 8 sectionals.
Mm-hmm.
And alongside the sectionals, I started taking the mocks as well. And I did
Right.
about 6 mocks in
Mm-hmm.
those 3 weeks. And I did the same process for verbal. But I think for verbal, I relied more on long sittings than on the topic wise test because I
Right.
found that more helpful.
Genuinely, because obviously when you in the last stage of your preparation, I think long sittings genuinely help, as you would also attest clearly.
Yeah, they definitely do. My verbal accuracy improved from about 78% in my
Mm-hmm.
second last mock to over 90% on the test day itself because like for 2 days, I just sat and did the CR, like
Mm.
the 100 questions marathon and one session of the RC marathon, one RC marathon. So three
Right.
sessions of the RC.
Super, super. And how about data insights? Because people have a lot
Oh,
of
yes.
confusion and challenge
I
with this
think
section, or maybe
that
there's
is
some mystery around it. So please elaborate a lot properly on how did you prepare for data insights overall, integrated reasoning and data sufficiency both. Yeah.
so data sufficiency, I think quant really helps there. So
Yeah.
that is a rather straightforward way of preparing.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing with data sufficiency is knowing the tricks and the traps because that is a very deliberate trap in your paper. You can tell, like if you've done a lot of practice papers on the
Mm-hmm.
day of the exam, also you can tell that this question is there as a trap for me.
Right.
Um, for integrated reasoning, I think a lot of your success is going to come from verbal and quant preparation. For me personally, I felt like there was nothing else I could prepare from other than just familiarizing myself with the types of questions so that I cut down on my reading time in the exam.
Mm-hmm.
Data insights is a very long section
Mm-hmm.
because there are complicated questions just in terms of how much depth they are testing of your understanding of a certain image or a graph in that moment. So it's not an easy section to ace time wise, and the only thing you can do is practice, practice, practice. And there are many resources on the portal. Do not let go of the after class work because
Mm-hmm.
that after class work, if you see, at least for me, it got progressively little harder, the
Mm-hmm.
13 papers, which
Right.
was really helpful because I felt like I've crossed this hurdle, then I've crossed this hurdle. And my confidence didn't get deterred in the first attempt to me that, oh, I can't do integrated reasoning. Because integrated reasoning is different to what we've seen in school.
Right.
Quant, to some extent, you've seen.
Mm-hmm.
So I think my strategy was just to
And the
spend a
practice
lot
did
of
help
time.
you towards the end. You became confident. Did you start scoring
Yeah,
well in the data section as well? That's
yes, I did. I did start scoring much better. And I started completing it even with 2 MSR passages, which to
wow.
me was a big
Yeah.
accomplishment.
Usually it's a
Um,
rare thing, but it has happened in a few official material sets. I think I've seen that thing. So two
yeah,
MSR, yes. Very rare though, but it is still in one or two cases. Yeah.
yeah,
Right, Tisha. So now tell us about the exam experience. First of all, did you write it at the center? Second,
I did.
did you? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So for me, the exam experience was much better than I expected. I'm usually
Mm,
a very nervous test taker. Um, but everything is very methodical when you go to the center.
right.
Don't forget your passport. That's literally all you need.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but once you get in there,
Mm,
there are like a clear set of instructions. Just follow what they tell you
mm-hmm.
because GMAT is very strict about rules.
Mm,
And once you sit down, like I was very nervous till the moment my exam started. And then I just told myself that it will ruin my exam if I overthink
mm-hmm.
at
Mm.
this point. So you have to be very calm.
Okay.
And I feel like even in my mocks, I noticed the mocks where I was too stressed because I couldn't get one question right. I forfeited the entire paper. So there's a lot of letting go.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not getting something within 3 minutes was my benchmark,
Mm.
you're never going to get it. like within
Genuinely
that time
helps.
exam.
Genuine. And tell us
And
about your section order. So sorry, please finish. So sorry. Go
yes, so my section order was quant, BI, break, verbal.
ahead.
Out of all the combinations, I found that the best.
Okay, okay. And anything unusual on the exam at all, or you felt that it was kind of doable, manageable, everything you had seen, sort of that. I mean, you won't get the same questions, but
No,
was it
no.
familiar?
I think quant was very, very familiar. Like there was questions were coming, and I just intuitively knew that this. I didn't even have to think.
Hmm.
For most of them, except one question which I had never ever seen before. But I feel there will always be questions like that on an
Hmm.
exam like this, and that was towards like in the last three questions.
When it got
But everything
progressively
else,
very hard, obviously, because you were doing really well on
the surprising thing is, for me, I never felt like one was very hard. Like they all felt like uh, the live work
that.
class sets.
Okay, okay.
Um, but um, verbal, I felt was I couldn't actually gauge with what was hard, what was easy, and I didn't want to waste time, so I just started putting, uh, just applying the concepts. For me, I think AAVE helps
Mm.
a lot across both,
Right, right.
um, and I just kept using that.
Mm.
My strategy in verbal was to not waste time. You will note, at least I noticed for most questions, there are only two answers that you would even consider viable.
Right, right.
Eliminate the other three answers and focus on those two answers. So now you have a 50% chance, which is statistically much higher than a 20% chance. And usually, just using the tricks that you would have learned and just using the methods, you'll be able to
Verify
distinguish
works
between the right.
brilliantly, right? Verify,
Yeah,
eliminate works
you
brilliantly.
just, you will, I used to eliminate and verify why I'm eliminating. And then those two answers, I would just use again, like if it's an assumption question or anything that can be a derivative of that,
Hmm.
negation. Um, Otherwise, I would just look at the two options and see what framework would
Hmm.
work best and use it like a mathematical thing and
Right,
move on. Because I feel language can also be tricky sometimes, and we can start making assumptions in our head about what
right.
something can mean. So to avoid that, I just made it like a clinical process.
Anything unusual in verbal? You said there was one question unusual in quant, but verbal, anything out of the
Not
ordinary?
nothing unusual. I think I got very lucky with my passages also. I was comfortable with all the topics
Hmm.
covered. Um, though I was
Super,
very prepared in case I
super.
got, like, for me, astronomy passages were not the easiest. And that was the
Yeah.
only topic I used to suffer with. And luckily, I didn't have to do that. But
Okay, okay.
I felt prepared to do it in case I had to.
Super. And how about the DI section on the exam day?
The DI section, I think I knew was not going as good as the quant section intuitively. But for me, um, it was just at that point, I was like, I'm here. So I'm going to do it. And I just tried my best for every question and it did work out okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I did feel like my DI section was definitely at the level that I practiced and gone for.
Right.
It wasn't easy,
Mm-hmm.
but it was doable with the concepts.
Mm-hmm.
And you definitely need a very good understanding of both verbal and quant. You can't just get away with knowing quant or knowing verbal. You
Mm-hmm.
have to know both to crack DI. Like that section is really like a integrated
Absolutely,
understanding of
as they
both
say it
things.
is. Okay, Trisha, for the test takers, like this is the very first session of the live class today. So
Yeah.
these people will be writing the exam in about 3 months, 2.5 months, 3.5 months, depending on when they choose to. What should be the do's and don'ts? Because maybe you will be able to tell better now that you're on the other side, what they shouldn't
Yeah.
be doing and what they should be doing. Just let us know, please.
You should. I think for me personally, I didn't like spacing out my uh, practice too much. Once I
Mm-hmm.
started, I wanted to do it every single day for a few hours because I
Mm-hmm.
felt like after a point, I would start, there would be gaps in my memory, and then I have to go back to things. I think the longer you prolong that, the more breaks you take, even if they are 2 day breaks or 1 day breaks, the more you are going to feel like, oh, I've forgotten something completely, or I'm not, like that depth is not coming in understanding. So, personally, for me, I avoided that.
Mm.
And I did take maybe I think 2 days as break days when I wasn't well, or just, I felt completely saturated. But I saved those 2 days for when, like, it was absolutely necessary that I
Mm-hmm.
don't um, study for a full day. Like on those days, I just revised my concepts, do something light, but I
Mm.
wouldn't study for like the full 4 to 6 hours.
Right.
Um, Having a routine helps. You need to know what times you're going to study so that you study during that time. And I built it around work. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so for me, it was a morning. In the morning, I would do about 4 hours, and then at night, I would do about 2.5 hours. Um,
Okay. And alongside work, you're saying this you were
yeah,
able to.
I was working full time.
Oh, okay. And you didn't take any major breaks like from work or something.
I took 2 days off in the week before the exam, but
That's it.
otherwise, no.
Okay, that's great to know. Great to know. And let's say it took you 2.5 months maximum of serious effort, right? You said Jan
Yeah,
you started in March and
mid Jan and end March, I was
yeah,
done.
so not even end March, only a week before the 24th is when you
Yeah,
wrote it.
yes,
So it is doable. Everyone listening in, please understand. And there's an example in front of you. Somebody can do it with a concentrated effort of about 70 days, let's say, and it's absolutely crackable at the highest level, as we see here. And one last thing, let's say if you're struggling with a section or if you don't feel like studying, you should still revise a little, as you said. Let's say 2 days you felt
yeah.
very saturated for, but you still did not fully let go of everything. You still kind of
Yeah.
revise the concepts and so on.
And I feel like there will always be a topic to you which feels like a break from everything else. For me,
Right.
that was CR. I really enjoyed CR.
Mm-hmm.
So I would plan my CR sessions in such a way where every 2 or 3 days I'd be doing some CR
Mm-hmm.
so that I could kind of get that breather from everything else. So even certain topics in quant, I just really enjoyed doing them.
Mm-hmm.
They felt like puzzles.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, that really helps, like understanding your own style of studying and seeing
Super.
what works for you, what doesn't work
Yeah,
for you. I
my
would say,
my colleague also told me that you had your own plan sometimes, you had your own tweaks, and they really that really helped.
yeah,
So that's it.
I think there can never be one set template for how you can study. And you might
Right.
talk to your friends who've done this exam and they'll tell you something. But what works for them doesn't necessarily work for you.
Mm-hmm.
I think you've been given a very comprehensive plan in both the live and the self-paced batches. So just follow that, in the sense, make sure you're diligently doing everything that's covered in it. But
Right.
at that part where you're revising for yourself, make sure you also know that your strengths and your weaknesses. Like someone might tell you, like if I'm here saying coordinate geometry is the toughest for me, that doesn't mean that's going to be the case for you. Maybe
Right.
another
Right.
topic is tough for you.
Right.
So you just have to be a little mindful of that and not copy
Okay.
paste anyone else's
All
prep
right.
method.
I'll not take too many questions here, but there are two questions that are already there. So one, did the awareness videos help you in any way? At least plan what I need to focus on. And two was, how did you decide your section order? So these are the two questions. You can answer one by one.
Okay. I'll take the second one first.
Yeah.
Uh, to decide my section order, I experimented. I knew I would be doing multiple mocks. I first tried first I tried verbal because I was the most confident in that. So verbal, quant, break, DI. Um, but what happened personally for me, I was way too, I'd already done like 2 sessions and took a break. By the time I reached DI, I started feeling just slight kind of exam fatigue or like that stress fatigue. So
Mhm.
for me, that was not working great. Um, I then tried quant verbal DI, which was much better for me because for me, verbal was a nice section, like a
Mm.
nice section to do. In my head, they were all stories or
Mhm.
facts that I was basically reading and interpreting. Um, but ultimately, the reason why I chose to do font, DI, break, then verbal was because for some reason, um, every time I took a mock in that order, it just went a lot better because my DI performance was better. And
Mhm.
I feel like when I was in the flow of font,
Right.
it was like a warm up for DI.
That's good.
Uh, and the verbal principles stay at the back of your head anyway. They're not going anywhere, they become ingrained.
Super.
So for me, this worked.
Mhm.
Definitely take different orders before you go into the exam so that you know what's working for you.
Right.
Um, and you'll be able to tell even when to take your breaks and everything.
Right.
Um,
And the
and
awareness
then
part, if you
the
can comment on
yes,
all. Yes.
it definitely helped me. It was one of the first things I did. Um, Awareness is also very important for you to keep, I would say, reading. I think I read a lot, and
Hmm.
that improves my speed of reading comprehension. Um, and that helped me a lot going and doing that quick. Like for me, astronomy, especially for some reason, moon passages
Yeah.
were not easy.
Hmm.
So I started doing some kind of reading and research over there so that
Hmm.
I went in equipped with a basic understanding. So
Right.
awareness definitely helps. Um, just in terms of what words, you will never know everything that's going to come on your exam, but you know at least the words you might encounter, the experimental methodologies you might encounter,
Super.
what happens in a particular field, like
Hmm.
say if you're talking about a humanities passage or the sciences passage, how things work. Because all of us come from different backgrounds, we've all studied very different material in school, especially when it comes to history or literature.
Yeah.
And that kind of awareness will really help you just tackle questions and feel calm and confident that I know something. It's not
Super. Super.
completely new.
One question I also had, did you do the official mocks as well and all of them, or did you do some of them? Like, just tell
I
us.
did the two free official mocks.
Okay. And what were your scores in those? And when did you do? Like early in the preparation, towards the end, when did you do those?
So first official mock I did as my first mock, and my second official mock was my last mock.
Okay.
Um, so after the diagnostic, then my first
Mm,
official mock was 665, and the
mm,
second one was not much better. It was a 685.
okay. And as you said, 2 weeks before the exam or somewhere around that, you had a very bad score, like almost
That was a
one. So what
diagnostic.
happened that day? Like, was it not your best day? Would you attribute it to that, or was it just a tougher test?
I think it was just I got too nervous.
Okay.
That was it. That's what happened. I just saw it was my first time using the proper interface, which
Mm-hmm.
the top platform is great for.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of blanked
Mm.
and felt like, okay, I can't do this.
Oh, okay.
And
Good
yeah,
that
that
you've
was not
experienced
great.
it a little earlier in the prep,
Yeah,
so you could really navigate through this. And Trisha,
yeah.
very, very happy that you could make it, and all the very best for your
Thank
applications. I'm
you.
sure you have enough time right now to think about your story
Yeah,
and how you're positioning to the schools and so on. In case you need any help with respect to anything else related to your prep and exam, prep obviously not, but prep for the applications, interviews, do keep in touch, and brilliant performance. I really can't praise you enough and thank you enough. Right.
thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone, and good
Thanks
luck
for
for your
coming.
exam.
Right.